Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. My name is Alberto Mazzetti Zannini, and I'm here to facilitate a session about policy. Policy versus politics. Now, in the last few days, of course, there's no need for me to remind you how disappointing politics has become for all of us. And however, policy could be that panacea that anesthetizes against this very disappointing results in electoral processes. Policy is still something that affects our lives and that we can have an agency on. And this is why we've invited three amazing makers to tell us about their experience working at policy level, locally and nationally, and perhaps also internationally. So first of all, let me introduce to you our speakers of today. Next slide, please. So the first speaker is Melanie Mossard, and she is from Impact Hub Phnom Penh. Welcome, Melanie.
Thank you.
The second speaker is Berry Van Ellis from Impact Hub Ankara. Berry Van, welcome, or Berry, like we all call you.
Hello.
Deis Nicoletto from Impact Hub Brasilia. Welcome also to you to the stage. We have three women, and it's a good thing because the women are the ones that are going to change the world, as we know. And let's start immediately with Melanie. So Melanie, tell us a little bit more about your experience working in Cambodia on policy initiatives that have been successful, and share with our makers why they have been successful and how you've got about and getting involved in policy in the first place.
Thank you. First, I would like to say that I will expand the definition to advocacy as well, because not directly only on policy making, which is more longer term, but I would say as Impact of Phnom Penh is, we see our role as one of the pioneer in the ecosystem, developing the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Cambodia. When we arrived 10 years ago, there were almost no one really in the government really care about supporting entrepreneurs. So it has been a long journey of first raising awareness about what is entrepreneurship, then identifying our champion within the government to be able to advocate also with them, help them understand the role of entrepreneurs in solving some of the social and environmental issues in the country. And then I would say the first stage is having them actively developing policies to be helpful for the entrepreneurs. And then also start advocating afterwards. So some example of I would say different ways that we have been working with government. I will say I will classify it in different ways. So first, as a contributor, we are invited to join roundtable discussions on different topics, such as, for example, how can we have a better ecosystem for entrepreneurs in Cambodia, and what are the barriers, for example, to register a business, to close a business, to pay tax, to hire people. So as a contributor, our role is to be around the table, be invited, and to share the real insight that we get from the entrepreneurs. I think another example is, I like the word, our role is more to be a convener, to be able to bring at the same table entrepreneurs and policymakers, government representatives, in a context that is not an hotel or 4-star with someone listening to someone, but something which is much more personal, much more where the entrepreneurs can feel open and safe to share their insight with the government stakeholders, and also the government stakeholders to feel they can be really have some open heart conversation also about what they can do and what they cannot do, and how they can get the real insight. So it's really creating this space that is a safe space for people to share their insight. And so this is, for example, the entrepreneurship platform exchange. And for example, in this case, we directly also reach out to the minister themselves, and we say would you like to meet our entrepreneur? We reach out to the Minister of Education, and then we arrange a meeting between one of our entrepreneurs working in the digital education ecosystem and the minister. And then we feel more also like this interaction, also like the future
How
we
did you
want to
approach
see.
a minister? How did you approach a minister exactly?
Okay, this is very special to Cambodia, but in Cambodia, everyone is on Telegram and on Facebook. So basically, we send a message on Facebook to the minister.
On Facebook, okay. And he replied?
Yes, and he replied.
Assuming it's
Yes, and he said, yeah, for sure, I would love to meet you. Let's have it, because like we have, it's not, maybe I don't know if he does it for everyone, but I framed very well my message, and then he replied, and then he said, yeah, I really like what you're doing. And so when we, like in Cambodia, ministers are very approachable, and Telegram, Facebook, very good. And then they even
it's not the case everywhere in the world, but yes, definitely in some parts of the world, maybe you can pull this off.
So I will say in small countries, because in Cambodia we only have like 15 million people. So I think it's quite approachable. So in countries where it's small like this, maybe it's easier. Otherwise, I think it's about identifying a champion within the ministry who then like help open some doors and then help us like on this identify like who is the best person to speak with. But I think having these more informal connections help like have more qualitative like input to be shared.
Yeah,
And so when we had this interaction with the minister of our entrepreneurs, and for them also we tell them like by meeting with entrepreneurs you have better stories also to share whenever you do your opening speech, like because you're always invited to share the insights. The speech, and so this is a great story of like you met this entrepreneur, they share with you this insight, and this is why you care about this topic. So this is also how we had them like, yeah, I think they see the value by themselves, like they finally meet some people who can share.
I'm quite intrigued by the influencer tab, because that's where you can actually actively influence policy, which until now it's been like consultative and like making them know that we exist, that the entrepreneurs have some needs. How do you influence, in fact?
I think so. This influencer one, I think in Cambodia also in particular, like it's Facebook and LinkedIn, is what we post online as like what are the insights that we gather on the ground. These are very precious insights. Like I think we always underestimate the power of LinkedIn, and as a network, I think we should really leverage it even more. And don't just post on your impacted profile, because this one will not reach so much. Post on your own personal profile, because this is where actually we get a lot of traction. And if we build our own thought leadership as like an impactable leader, an impactable like staff representative, this is where we can share also some messages and insights from entrepreneurs. And one thing also that we've done in Cambodia is that I tell like all my team members post on LinkedIn. Like it's not just me as the head of Impactable, and I put like 5% of the job description of everyone to be storytelling. You need to tell the stories of entrepreneurs we are supporting, their struggle, their problems, their input, and this is how we actually do advocacy. And so then this is how people will know that we care about this topic, and they will invite us to be at the table when we're going to be the time to design the policy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you see a direct linkage between social media and the spread of social media and how they're used, especially by younger generation. And the note aside, Cambodia is a very young nation, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have like 68% of the population under 30 years old. So yeah, social media is like everything.
Everyone's on social media. This is fascinating. Melanie, I'm going to come back to you in a minute. I wanted to bring in also Berivan into the conversation. Berivan from Impact Abankara. Berivan is a consumed inhabitant of the policy spheres, dare I say. Berivan, are you there?
Yes.
And
Hello.
I first came across Berivan a couple of years ago when she started entering the network, essentially because Ankara was last weekend 2 years old. Happy birthday, Impact Abankara. And we did a project in Jordan advising a task force that the government of Jordan had created to create the first social enterprise law in the country. And that was my first exposure to both the world of policy and the world of Berivan. And I have to say that Berivan, I have never met someone with such a deep and extensive knowledge about social economy and every related aspect of the social economy than you. So here I'm completely in awe when you speak. Now, tell me a bit more about your experience personally as Berivan in the journey of policy and the experience of Ankara, Impact Hub Ankara itself.
Mhm. Instead of pointing out to certain engagements, I should say that we are in constant interaction with public officials. They show up in our events, we show up at theirs, they call for information or ideas on a regular basis. We have joint projects too. We have a healthy rhythm of collaboration, let's say, or something like it, because the country is in a really bad shape. But when it comes to social innovation or social entrepreneurship in many countries, of course, there are exceptions. The government or the state or the first sector, as we call it, does not lead or guide, is not the trailblazer in terms of knowledge. It's the fourth sector interface or intermediary organizations like us who is up to date with developments in the world, who is in touch with the state of the art practice, or in touch with people crafting solutions to the problems in the field. So after a while, people in the government position you as a valuable information source. And it's a very powerful position to be, but very challenging to manage properly in a country like Turkey. How do we do it? How do we do it? I have prepared 4 recommendation sets for the audience here. We spend time and resources on being connected, really. I mean, we spend 20% of our time on this. And it does not necessarily mean being connected directly to the government or state agencies. I mean, being connected to all relevant networks, umbrella organizations, local, national, international, whatever. And I empathize and understand very well with the business survival instinct. You dedicate time and resources to the people and businesses generating money. But this is a very long-term investment that empowers your business development as a meta intervention. When you are better connected, you are more relevant, and it means better and easier business opportunities all the time. I mean, we had Semih yesterday. He mentioned a little bit, Semih from Impact of Istanbul mentioned a little bit. We have been in the most severe crisis, economic and political crisis of the country. And we have been working like 16 hours a day for the past 2 years to keep our head above the water, but we still dedicated 20% of our time on this. We are a network junkie, like Catalyst 2030, Global Network, Turkey Chapter, Social Value International, Social Value Turkey, GSG, the National Advisory Board for Impact Investing, Turkey Social Entrepreneurship Network, and through that, a member of the Euclid Network, Donut Economics Turkey Network, which is very new, Next Economies Conference that hosts many strategic decisions and movements right now. We are a People and Planet First accredited social enterprise and a member of the Good Market, and it goes
every membership in the world.
yeah, all the relevant memberships, let's say, and we try to keep our interest in being connected alive because we have this ecosystem influencing vision, not just another interface or hub, but we position ourselves as a community of experts interested in ecosystem shaping and policy in general. Like Melanie said, we signal that all the time, and we do give serious thought on how to create value for other ecosystem actors, not only for ourselves.
Yeah.
It's very easy to be sucked in the daily hustle in the hub. There are too many things to do, but we do dedicate a lot of time to represent the hub in nationwide events. We do follow up our stage time. We keep the data for that, like opening up new connection channels. We do turn up at peer events for our ecosystem partners, and they always include us in their work. So it's like reciprocity, a basic principle. You should spend resources for being connected and remaining connected. It's another challenge. Another thing is that we do spare time and energy to get strategic consultancy jobs. We try to be as selective as possible. And why do we have many options to be able to be selective? Because we are well connected. We have demand. As an arm of our consultancy work, we do carry out research projects, generate some valuable knowledge products, and we try to be innovative in that, like not only literature review but deep practice review, scanning podcasts, Medium blog posts, YouTube videos, and interviewing people that are never interviewed before because they are doing the silent work in the backstage.
Mhm.
We make sure that we codify their valuable practitioner knowledge and bring it into light in our analysis and findings. And that's how people spot us, I think. It's strategic positioning in generating knowledge.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? So
Course.
you have all this. Definitely, I can see that you are networkers by definition. You know, like you're networked. You establish those linkages. You maintain them. You're great at it. But from there, the step to becoming an influencer, like Melanie was saying, is not that straightforward. How
Yeah.
have you made that step, and in what context and circumstances do you recommend makers to make that step?
Yeah. Like, of course, we have the personal network element on our sites, like, but I think other hubs can do it by inviting similar profiles in their advisory circles or support circles. What is this profile? In my previous position, I was the founding manager of a social innovation hub, which was hosted by a city university. And there we initiated a series of policy dialogue meetings with government officials at the expert level. In a country like Turkey, when it comes to advocacy, everybody goes for big names, ministers, counselors of ministers, or general directors at minimum. Like Melanie was telling us that she can reach to the minister. Very cool. But we took a different path for two reasons. One, polarization was making political engagement with high levels very dangerous, and
Mhm.
it's still making it really, really dangerous. And two, there is still a lot of turnover at the high level positions because of the crisis. Like there are many restructuring going on. So we strategized and thought all drafts are written by the experts, all support projects, funding frameworks are drafted at the expert level. They are the ones, most of the times, briefing the high level.
Mhm.
So why don't we focus on them? And back then, I'm talking about 7, 8 years ago, we started with 7 experts. And in 3 years' time, we were working with 102 experts from 11 different ministries, 30 different government agencies, and 6 big intergovernmental agencies. And no exaggeration here, 90% of all social entrepreneurship related government work in Turkey has come out of those meetings.
That's
So
extraordinary.
it,
And
it was a,
this is
it was a
this is applicable around the world, probably, because I mean, ministers they don't know anything most of the times. They have to rely on these experts to do briefings. But who is an expert exactly? Is it an intern inside the ministry, or is it someone
no,
that's appointed as an expert consultant? How does it work?
yeah. In the Turkish government sense, it's like experts are technical experts on an issue, and they go like junior experts, senior experts, then they go up in the bureaucracy. They are more like junior technocrats, I can say that. Like the first beginning, no, the second, let's say, level beginning job in the Turkish government structure.
Okay.
But I mean, how did we manage to reach 102 people? We collaborated strategically again. We were always watching for example, watching for opportunities. For example, back then it was the rising tide of social entrepreneurship, right? 2016. So we rode that tide, and we said, okay, the regional development agencies are looking for new tools and methods to activate social development, economic development, and social entrepreneurship can be packaged, of course, because it works when used responsibly, right, in those situations. So we were just trying to attract them with our knowledge, up-to-date knowledge, let's say practitioner knowledge, and it worked. But and one more point, all that high level stuff changed, but experts stayed.
Mhm.
So if we spent time persuading high level officials, everything was in vain. So it worked.
That's very interesting. Now, thank you very much, Berivan. Now, I'm going to pass now to the days, and I'll come back to you in a little while with more questions. But let me bring into the conversation days from Impacta Brasilia, another capital, this time of another, important rising country in the world, Brazil. And days, what's your experience of working in policy? Were you always going to be working in policy because you're in a capital, or
Yeah.
or was that a bit of a chance that you ended up doing it?
Yes, sure. So thank you to be here. And I was thinking before to start this conversation, because when you are in the political capital, like we are in
Sorry, can I just
Brazil.
stop you there a second? Sorry,
Oh,
your camera is off. Can you turn on the camera by any chance?
wait, it's,
Sorry, I didn't want to
well,
interrupt you, but
it is. I don't know.
oh, okay.
It
Well,
is my camera. I don't know what's happened. You
now
can
you
see
can see
me?
you. Now we can see you. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. I don't know what's happening here. So how was I saying? We are in the capital of political in Brazil. So I think that every impact hub is located in this situation should be, it's like mandatory to be in this topic with advocacy. It's not my expertise, but we are here involved with the atmosphere of government and federal policies. So it's most than our role to be involved with all this influence. So I
You're
would like to
manifest
share
destiny in a
some,
way. Yeah.
yeah, we should be like, it's important to be part of that. So we have some experience in Brazil that's like federal and in our state. But I would like to, in the first one that we are connected with a lot of network, how Barry Van say. The first one is Rede de Advocacy, it's a network for advocacy. So we have our work groups that we have our monthly meetings to discuss some topics. As Impact Hub, we are involved in the work group called New Economy, with impact driving its focus on. And we have like, in this group, we change a lot of information, what's happening in the government, and how we can plan an action that can influence the government. So this is the first one that we start to be part of. And the second one that's really important for us is the federal strategy that we have here in Brazil. It's a really important strategy led by the ministry. So we are member of this group. It's a group that have a lot of, they union a lot of civil organization and federal organization, and they do influence for policy for impact. So now this strategy has a lot of actions just to the most important that they want to transform public for policy for impact. Actually, they are doing a lot of things. One of the, for me, it's the most important, because we have this federal strategy and now we have the strategy for the states. Actually, we have here in Brazil, and as Impact Hub, we help to write this policy for our state, the federal the district of federal for Brasilia. So I think that's the most achievement that this strategy has. And there are a lot of topics they are talking about, like they want to prioritize procurement policy, procurement for business that have this driving for impact. And they are building a funding just for impact business. So it's really strong what they are doing. And there are a lot of organizations connected with that.
Yeah.
And yes, and the other topic that was happening this year for us was really important to participate. I was guide my the strategy for family entrepreneurship.
Okay.
We are invited to run a lot of workshops to build in the theory of change for the strategy, and also to plan the actions that the government will going to do. And we bring a lot of stakeholders together to discuss what's more important for entrepreneurship, family entrepreneurship. So with that, it's important place that we should do to influence this policy.
Yeah.
So we are inside in the government, we are talk with them, and we can show what is the best for this environment. So
An interesting
we are
an interesting angle of family entrepreneurship that we don't necessarily associate it with us. With family entrepreneurship or family businesses, as they are known also sometimes, and yet they constitute, if I'm not mistaken, 50% of all businesses in the world, which one doesn't actually realize. But most businesses, good half of the businesses are run by father and son, by mother and sister, and they are essentially family businesses. And what kind of solutions or kind of ideas came out of these working groups? One or two that you may remember that you thought were interesting.
So yes, the most solutions is how we can have credit. The credit here for this business is really important for Brazil. How can develop it, and also to bring more. When we talk about it, they need to be more policies for support these families and the family entrepreneurship. So credit and money, actually the money, it's really important to develop the business. It's the most discussion here in Brazil for all the entrepreneurship, actually for this experience that we have.
Access to finance.
And yeah, finance, it's almost always for the entrepreneurs. And the other experience that we have, and this is one that we are working on it, we held our event here in Brazil. It's Forum for Advocacy with other organization. We bring a lot of people that were doing, in some cases, they can inspire the community and how we can together, because as Melanie said, advocacy is bring everybody together to influence the government. And so we need to have these people together to go ahead. So the key outcome that we have doing these events is that we start an ecosystem of advocacy in Brasilia. We are planning to have a house of advocacy for this organization. Actually, in Brasilia, in our space, almost the people that use our office is someone that's working with advocacy in Brasilia. It's really interesting because this topic is surrounding us in Brasilia. And the other is we are developing a course for parliament influence, because the people want to know how we can influence the parliament. What is the tools that we have, how we can go and organize, how we can do a plan for that, because advocacy is not like put some post in the social medias. We need to organize as a plan, have indicators, and how we can change it, the policy public. So I think that's really important, and nobody knows how to do it. So we have this partnership.
Go ahead. Sorry, finish what you're saying.
No, I just want to say that we have now a partnership that have this expertise, and we are planning to not just do the planning, but how we can measure the impact. It's really efficient. We have indicator, we are changing the policy. So that's really important outcome, actually changing.
I think one of the premises, of course, that you, but also Bervan and also Melanie have said is, of course, collaborating with all the peer organizations in this common front, in this common battle, if you like. And I am curious to hear about how you can collaborate, for example, maybe with competitors, direct competitors that are maybe going for funding or going for bids that are the same ones that you're going for. And so there is a bit of a strong element of competition. Can you actually find that common ground in advocacy? And how do you do that?
Yes, actually we do that, because if you're not collaborating with this others, one that is competitive, we can change it. So I think that we have this purpose common, and we can have this planning. And when we do our advocacy planning, we are going to put the topics that's important for each organization. And now we're going together to influence. I think that's actually really important to bring them together, because we have just one focus on it.
Absolutely. Would you argue that actually advocacy and joint advocacy initiatives with the other ecosystem actors is a real good hook to start collaborating with them on advocacy, but also, of course, on other things after that? Because sometimes it's harder to do it on a project basis, but it's much easier to do it on an advocacy basis. So that's
exactly.
a little insight that I think is really valuable from Brasilia. Let's go back to, thank you very much, Days. I'll come back to yours again, and let's go back to Melanie and to Phnom Penh. Now, Melanie, while you give us your last insights into policy and advocacy in Phnom Penh, I also would like to invite you to reflect on a question that I'm also turning to the audience. And if you could please turn the slides, this is the $1 million question. Which is the one policy that you think, if approved, would have the most transformative and far-reaching impact on our sector? Now, this question I would like you speakers to answer as part of also your final presentation of the work that you're doing. And I would like also the audience to start answering the question in the chat. At the end of this session, we will select the best answers. We are not doing it in a democratic way. There's no the selection that doesn't happen democratically. Sorry, there's no democracy here. But we're going to select the best ones, and we're going to put them in a poll, and then you can vote and you can be democratic about which was the best idea. So this is the gamified policy session. But let's go back to Melanie in the meantime, leaving the question there so you can remember and inviting everyone to think about it. Melanie.
Yes.
So you are. So there is an incredibly young country. You can Facebook your minister. You can create incredible campaigns. And is there anything you can't do?
No, but I think I just want to say one thing. Like when I said this to other people in Cambodia, they're like, "You are crazy." But
okay.
So it's not like Cambodia. But I think it's more for us ourselves to, sometimes we put ourselves barriers that we say like these people are unreachable. But at the end of the day, they are people like us who need some insight to do their job. And actually what we are doing is like we make it easier for them to have something to say. So I think I want to really like more like encourage everyone who is listening to ourselves. Like we have so many things to say. We have so many stories from our entrepreneurs. So let's try non-traditional way of reaching out to people because actually they like it. Like I think they are so they appreciate when we speak with our heart and like stories are real impact of our entrepreneurs and what is really needed. So I think this is more an invitation that is not just in Cambodia in small countries, but we can all try reaching out. And I agree that I think the best way is also maybe targeting like Secretary of State, like ministers. Sometimes they have so many things on their plate, it's hard to reach. But like these experts or these people who are actually the ones gonna write the text, and I totally agree with it.
And I have to say also, because I have some experience at the European Union level, that the European Union officials, the Commission officials, they are all listed on a directory, and they have the email address and telephone number, and you can write to them, and they will reply, whichever the level. I don't say that the commissioner itself, the head, but certainly from that level down, it's possible to have that dialogue. So some institutions do have that mechanism. And Melanie, so you've already become a bit of an old hack of the policy world in Cambodia. And of course, this is a question that I'm curious to hear from your perspective, from the Cambodian perspective. It can be very different for the rest of the world. But I invite you also to think about it also maybe on a global scale. What would be the one thing that we could all collectively rally behind and think, okay, that would make such a difference to our sector?
I think for Cambodia, as I told you, it's a very young country. And I think for us, it's like, how do we create this caring mindset at scale? How do we build this new generation of young people who are going to be want to be part of using their skills, their talent to solve the problem of their country? And I think for me, one aspect of it could be like having these volunteer services that could be part of like the compulsory, like when you turn like 20 years old, to work 6 months for an NGOs or for like a social project in the country where that is partially funded by the government, so that you can then be exposed to what's happening in the country. Because I think, especially in Cambodia, we still have a lot of NGOs. And this is actually where they will be seeing what are the gaps and what are the opportunities that could then become like entrepreneurial ideas later on. And I think it's really important to have this exposure at a young age to start like building the care and this exposure to these issues. And I think sometimes like we don't have this exposure in the universities, and while actually this is very relevant, and starting like even with data collection on the ground and like what going in the community and understanding what's happening could really then be life transformative for the future. So I think in the case of Cambodia, this will be an interesting.
And you have some experience of working with the educational side of things, because if I'm not mistaken, you have developed a curriculum that has become mandatory or near mandatory. Give us a bit of the rundown of that one, because it's amazing.
Yeah, this one is actually coming from an existing policy in Cambodia where the telecom company have to give away 2% of their revenue to a fund that is managed by the government, and that with the goal to develop the educational entrepreneurial ecosystem of Cambodia, which is very aligned to what we do.
Who came up with that?
So this is a brilliant policy. And so through this fund, we were able to develop a entrepreneurship course, actually, with online, offline. So we train like 88 professors from 17 universities 17 to be able to teach our course as part of a compulsory curriculum of a university. And now we're going to scale to 27 universities and in the upcoming year.
How many universities are there in Cambodia?
I think like 35. So
okay,
we almost like,
almost the whole country.
it's like almost the whole country. But so, and this is also, we have been able to do it through these private-public partnerships element, and I think this is quite impressive. And we really bring this entrepreneurship. Like we went through different ways, like to get on board all of these universities, because it's one thing to put it as a let's do it and get actually the teacher delivering the high quality content. So then, we have the teachers doing a hackathon for teachers only, so that they put themselves on the shoes of the students, and then we did different activities afterwards. So and I think this is another example of how policy can develop the entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Thank you, Melanie. I turned the camera to Berivan, and Berivan, she'll give us the answer that is the one that binds them all. Let's see.
Yeah. It's very funny that you use that sentence, that binds them all. There's this great book called Power for All by two great Italian writers, Julie Battilana and Tiziana Casciaro, if I read their names correctly. And Power for All, how it really works and why it's everyone's business. That's the title of the book. And they say we want to change how people see power, not just as a blunt tool reserved for the privileged few or as a dirty business that one should stay away from, but as energy for everyone to harness to make our life work and society better. So maybe we should a policy of the people, a policy as practice, a common policy binding us practitioners in this field. Maybe the right term would be a kind of social contract. We should start from there. Like, policy is not something that only policymakers do, but we as practitioners generate all the time. We generate the drafts, we create the possibilities and opportunities, and we address the kind of work we do as such, like think tank, do tank kind of methodology. But and they're
a contract like the Green Deal of the European Commission, that kind of social contract.
But there in the book, they start with the power objects, the ring, the sword, the helmets. I mean, the power object is ourselves. Like how I will refer to another book. It's a little bit messy, but I think it makes a great point. It's Samuel Bowles, an economist. He has this book, The Moral Economy: Why Good Incentives Are No Substitute for Good Citizens. So incentivizing the field, I think, would never work. And I made our team peer previews, and in the past we made a lot of field research, and there are like at least 50% of the social enterprises or support organizations would say incentivize. But I mean, incentives, they work for the idea of economic, homo economicus, like always prioritizing self-interest. The moral person is a different person. So you don't incentivize the field. You just stand out of the light of the social entrepreneurs. They're already changing the things. You stand out of their sunshine, and you remove the obstacles. That's the best policy. You just remove the obstacles and make sure that social economy actors can benefit from all the existing opportunities that the private sector is already benefiting. Just make sure that they have access. They have access. There are no legal entity things stopping them, or
So
other
the social economy should receive subsidies, for example, then.
no subsidies, please.
Not all the
Subsidies.
private sector.
No. I don't believe in subsidies. Really, it's this dual incentives thing. The social, the impact, and the money, the trade part. It's something that it works on its own, and it's already natural, and it's already going to replace what's existing.
We just have to accelerate it, you're saying, and by removing these obstacles. Thank you
Yes.
very much, Barivan. That's also very, I mean, you have a way of going around an answer that is very complicated sometimes, but I think I understood what you were trying to say. And it is indeed about government regulations that have to be removed or have to be changed to make it much more smooth for them to access capital, for inclusion in the sector, and therefore that's DEI approaches, etc., etc. So things that we're already all working on. And it makes perfect sense to work on this from that point of view. Days, may I come to you and ask you also, in the country that has now de facto become the pioneer of the impact economy, because from a purely political legislative point of view, there's not that many countries out there that call it the impact economy. They call it the social economy, they call it the sharing economy, they call it but they don't call it the impact economy. And instead, Brazil has stepped into this space and made it very clear that they want to be the leaders of this. What is your impression of well, I don't have any problem with Brazil leading on anything, to be honest, apart from football, of course. But there is a question around the role that you are playing there and what you see for the constituents that you are serving, so the social entrepreneurs, as the viable potential political change or policy change that you would have a major impact.
So good question. And I was thinking the first question that I was what going to change and reading here all the people put in the chat. But I think that here in Brazil, the main role that we are like the voice for this entrepreneur in the government, and how we can bring what they need for the government and how they can change the policies happen. And I think what happened already in Brazil, I would like to bring some example then what the policy is changing here and actually happening. It's that we have a red policy for purchasing public procurement. So they are going to prioritize the business that have this impact driving. So the government, we are going to prioritize so they can have the benefit to buy this from this kind of business. And the other one that Berivan told you, that's no, Melanie, I think. It's about we have to have some funding. We are here in Brazil for this law. We are starting to building a funding specific for impact to entrepreneur impact driving. So it's something that we started doing here. And for me, I think the most important thing that we should do is it should be mandatory. Someone writing here, actually, we should to have impact measurement. It's like every business should be this impact measurement for like a key KPI and for all business that we have in Brazil. I think that's really important when you ask me like how the entrepreneur can influence. If we have this driving, this mindset that we should have measurement impact, it's the most important for me, and we can change the economy here and benefit all the entrepreneur.
What I think is really fascinating that you haven't mentioned, and neither you nor anyone of the speakers, and I don't know if in the chat someone has, but I don't think so. Nobody has mentioned what actually many policy makers keep on saying is the important point, which is definition and certification of social enterprises, right? They hold on to this particular tool and they say, well, we can't do anything because you don't agree on this point. Is this a way to avoid the fact that they have to make legislation on other matters and they hold on to this one? Because if we don't know what a social enterprise is, how can we possibly legislate about it? What answer do you give to those kind of policymakers that are a bit annoying?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I have one short answer, like what is the definition of entrepreneurship? There is no agreement on that either.
True.
when you look at the policy world. So
That's a very good answer. Now, I would like to open up the floor to Q&A now, while our kind backstage elves, we call them, do the magic and they produce a poll that will be summarizing the most interesting and most provocative ideas that I put forward, that our speakers put forward, and also that you have put forward, and then we'll go and read them together. But first, I would like to go and check the Q&A section, which of course is written very small. Is this Q&A? Yeah. And shall we start from the top? Like, read a couple of questions. For example, Agi asks, how do you identify the topics that you want to dialogue with for government? Yeah, that's better. Thank you, Melanie. This is for you, Melanie, actually.
Yes, I think like what we feel comfortable talking about, I would say sharing insight on. I think for us is about like especially in the regulation of enterprise in Cambodia, broadly speaking, how to better register a business, like make it easier to register a business, to close a business, and the tax system for businesses at different stage of a business. I think this is quite straightforward. I think then on the topic related to more like social enterprise, this is also some emerging topics. So we have to gather insight and like needs from our entrepreneurs themselves. Then there is also related to youth engagement. This is one of the topic as well. And then there is additional topics that are related also to our incubators that are more vertical focus, where we are brought into the conversation, for example, on like agriculture, regenerative agriculture and climate resilient agriculture. And in this case, like we play a role more as a convener to bring our entrepreneurs at the table to speak to directly to the policymakers.
Whatever attracts you, really, like actually that, and also whatever the community itself is kind of pushing for, I guess.
Yes.
And I'm curious about the second question that Alex has asked. If you can do the little trick of this big screen, by the way, Christine, that would be amazing, because my eyesight is what it is. As you know, I lost one eye already, and the other one is not doing very well either. So, oh, that's much better. I have been a politician myself in our local parliament since this year. What do you want from politicians? I would have an answer from that. How can they best collect your ideas, and how does good cooperation work, or what does it look like? I am going to ask this question to Berivan, please.
I mean, I'm sure in the Austrian context, like this local participation, participatory mechanisms work a lot better than what we have here in Turkey. But my answer would be, I mean, keeping your interest alive, like going to all relevant events, and again sparing time to meet with the support people, you know, the social entrepreneurs. They will talk. And good cooperation, it takes many different forms, but one essential element is like constant updating and interaction and communication. Like something happens, you make sure that you update the other side so they are not left in the dark. And then many people are they are ready to give their ideas and labor, let's say, for free when it's something that affects them in the end, right? So yeah, open communication channels all the time.
All the time.
If
And let me read the third question for Days, coming from a fellow Brazilian, Mariana. Mariana asks, how do you organize that work as a service, like your policy work as a service? And is your Impact Hub contracted to drive such policy work? So are you making any money out of this particular strand of work? Or is it like a sunken cost, or like Berivan was saying, a long-term investment that comes back in other form?
Yes, it's a good question. We don't have this service yet. We doing advocacy as a movement, but we are, as I told you, we have a partnership with a company for partnership for event. We are building this product because they plan that they do a plan of the advocacy, but we want to measure this plan. So we are building that to be contract, to be as a service, has to build the plan, and then measure if it's effective. But who is going to contract that? The company that wants to do advocacy, is not the government, right? So we are planning to have this also, to have this for the others impact hubs, because they have different agendas. Like Manaus, they want to talk about Amazonia. So how we can influence and do advocacy for 2 impact hubs here in Brasilia and also for the other organizations. So we are planning to do that, but we don't have actually, we are not doing money yet, but we hope so in the future.
And maybe that's not what the point of policy and advocacy is, to make money, but it's to influence, so that maybe later on there is more money, or it's maybe a slightly tangential or derivative form of financing. And this is for Mariana, who is.
And I just want to give a small tips on how to charge for it. I think it's like positioning ourselves more as like a convener. Like in any like project vertical, there's always like some convening events, and so it's like playing this role of like being the facilitator, and when we are playing the role of the convener, we are the one making the invite list, and then we know who we want to bring at the table, and we also like can shape the discussion in a way that like influence the policy after. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, indeed. So I am now in the very vaguely panicky state of like, is the poll ready? And who do I ask about the poll? Christine, I should ask about the poll, but Christine is not here. She is here, but she's the elf. And so Christine will tell us whether we can do it. Christine, yes, hold on. They are speaking from the like this with a microphone. Yes, it is ready. Yeah, the time is ready. That's wonderful. And so we have to click on a button, which I think is the poll button, that you can see on the right-hand side with the little towers. And here is your poll. Which is the one policy that would have the most transformative and far-reaching influence if approved? And we have here 4 options. Remove obstacles for social entrepreneurs. Youth volunteer service. Set an impact entrepreneurship, KPI, and easy access to finance and capacity building. Now, I invite you to vote, and don't vote just this. Vote also the innovation awards later, which are going to be a way in which you can say to other makers, well done. This is amazing. I really like it. I really like what you're doing. And so, yeah, vote for those 2 things. But at the moment, just this one. This poll is here for you to vote on. And we will close the poll in exactly 2 minutes. But in the meantime, I would like to ask, who came up with the impact entrepreneurship KPI? Was it, I think it might have been Luis, or not? I don't see the chat now, actually. So this is.
It was Luis asking Daisy.
Yeah. Luis, do you want to come on stage and tell us a little bit about KPIs in impact entrepreneurship? Or is it too much of a dragging you into something that you don't want to do? Because if you raise your hand, I believe you can then appear onto the stage magically, apparently. But maybe Luis has other things to do, because he is also the maker that is organizing everything. So, it was Vafa. Vata. Nobody takes paternity. Let me just go back then to your speakers. And I think that the poll now has been seen. We can take that away, come back to the speakers for one final question, and then we look at the results of the poll. Who are our natural allies, apart from the classic ecosystem builders? Who do you consider an ally that is unusual but important in our space? I'm curious to hear. For example, could it be the media? Could it be other educational institutions or business schools? Could it be so the academia? Could it be who are the trade unions? I don't know, like natural allies.
I think for
yeah, go ahead.
like As I think it's interesting to learn from Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
Because this is what they do. Like they keep on doing like advocacy, like to support like their members. And I think I think I learned a lot from how they structure their requests, how they advocate. Like we publish every year like a white book on like what their requests are for the year. So I think and getting some help from them or like learning from them.
Yeah, definitely. The Chambers of Commerce is a great idea. Thais and Berivan, do you think of anything else or?
I think that for us here, we have a big companies, they do that already, and they have like a social or foundational institute that have this topic of impact, and they can be a good ally for us to do the advocacy. I think that's the one.
So the private sector, you're saying, essentially. Companies in the private sector,
It's not a category of an institution or organization, but there are those individuals who are like cross-pollinators. They wear many hats. They sit in many strategic positions in advisory councils everywhere, really important influencers within the ecosystem, but they are not always on the stage. They can be backstage people too, but people listen to them, like respect them. And it's not easy to of course uncover who is who like that, but if you do a strategic ecosystem mapping of individuals and organizations at the same time, from the connections you always catch them. I think those people are really natural allies. Like those are, for example, it can be a university professor who's gathering the working group for the next 5-year development plan, who will know you and who will invite you to the working group so that you can add some sentences to the 5-year development plan of the country, kind of stuff.
Yeah. And well, thank you. I was also thinking of, having just returned from the GECES meeting in Brussels. Now, for those of you who don't know, we have just been invited for the next 7 years to be one of the consultative organizations that advises the European Commission on all matters pertaining to the social economy and to social entrepreneurship, which is very exciting. There's 27 member states represented, and there's 27 expert organizations represented, and we are one of them. And yours truly and humbly is the one that sits in this very surreal setting. And the reason why I'm making this example is because that's a pure policy forum, because we are there to advise the Commission on policy legislation and implementation that will impact our sector. So it's a really good place also to influence and to meet everyone else. So it's a perfect storm. But the room is structured like this. On the one hand, on one side, there are all the cooperatives and the cooperative movement. On the other side, there is the impact economy and all the other impact economy actors. In the middle is the Commission acting like a referee. And for me, sorry about that. That was Marco Nannini. And so, yeah, that was for me incredible to see that this kind of like in the same room, and yet we are not yet allies with the world of the cooperatives that is out there. And 1 billion people in the world are members of a cooperative. So that's, if we want to affect change, that's a good number to start working with. So that's my answer, that we should be much more allies with the cooperatives. And so now let's look at the poll, because we are in the last minute, and see who won this poll. So we go to the poll button, and how do we know that we won? Christine is going to tell us. Sorry, this is very not very good to manage, because I'm not very technological in these things, but I am.
Sorry, Christine is just moving to the stage, coming in now like this. Hi, everybody. So what we've seen, I'm not sure if you see it, but removing obstacles for social entrepreneurs has gotten 45% of the votes.
Wow. Well, yes, that's a good idea, definitely.
Followed by easy access to finance and capacity building. But really quick, it's only these 4 options, because we could only give you 4 answer options. There were many other really amazing suggestions there. Yes.
The next session is about DEI. Don't miss it. It's now come up to the hour. And don't forget to vote for the Innovation Awards. And don't forget to check the knowledge space. This session is recorded, and all the previous ones and all the following ones. This is an amazing Maker Festival. Thank you for participating. Thank you, Policy Wonks. And thank you to the speakers in particular.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ciao. And cut. How does it work?